Well, guys, I won't lie to you. It is about midnight here, and it is late. I can hear the storms going crazy outside. If you're affected by that in western Kansas, please take cover. Please be safe. Do everything you can. I'm praying for you if you do have any types of issues with that, and I'm keeping you and your family in mind because there's some wild stuff going across in terms of weather coming across the Kansas area right now. So quick caveat getting that out of the way. Today's video, I wanted to make a list compiling just about everybody that I truly think Kansas State is pursuing beyond just the, okay, here's K-State contacting this guy. You contact this guy, you contact this guy. These are the guys I actually believe you could see wearing a K-State jersey come next season. Guys that I think would be incredible, and I wanted to compile a big board so you didn't have to. Basically, making my players of who I would choose on a scale of from most interested to least interested of who I would want personally. And I should also say this, if you disagree with me, that's totally fine. I'm just a dude in a room watching ball and talking to a camera. Do not worry if I disagree with your list or if your favorite player is lower on this than I have him or higher than I have him. Whatever the case is, that's totally fine. That's totally your opinion. These are just my opinions on where K-State needs to go first to capitalize on some good players and add some momentum to the transfer portal and overall recruiting headed into the 2025-2026 season. Quick reminder, hit that subscribe button. It helps out immensely. Without further ado, let me jump right in. Folks, I've got 7 players that I decided were worthy of discussing in today's video. Guys that I thought should be mentioned as links to Kansas State, guys that I think could genuinely be here. Now, there's more players than these 7. Just to put that out there, if someone commits to Kansas State and they're not on my big board, that's totally fine. I'll jump into them as well. But as far as right now goes, these are the 7 dudes I'm feeling most, and 7 guys I feel like could wind up being in Manhattan. Starting off with my favorite prospect on the board for Kansas State, actually not technically in the transfer portal, but let me explain here. The international EuroLeague route with Matthew Guic, a 6'6" guard, a kid that I think is really, really special. I'll put that out there right now. Matthew Guic being the best player that Kansas State is associated with. Him committing to Kansas State is the equivalent in my mind of a top 20 transfer portal player. That's how much faith I have in this kid's game. Now, I'll tell you some quick rundowns on each player. I'll start off with Gru and I'll go through here, but I've got my notes pulled up off to the side, so if you see me reading that way, that's what's going on there. Now, Matthew Guic, I call him Gru. I think it's a sweet nickname. Obviously, shout out Despicable Me one time. Matthew Guic, a 6'6", 200-pound freshman. He's playing overseas for FC Barcelona. I have a full video dedicated to Gru with some highlights as well. When that first initial report was leaked, some guys we talked to in the portal, someone that I'm really, really interested in. I'm a huge fan of Matthew Guic. I think he's a really good player, an NBA player in a year or two. But telling you a little bit about his game, he's averaging 13.1 points, 4.8 rebounds, and 2 assists on 49% shooting from the field, 33.3% from 3, and 78.1% from the free throw line. Now, that's 20 total games played. And just to put this out there as well, that's only in 21.8 minutes per game. So that's not a full 40-minute split. That's not him getting an extra 9-10 minutes in college basketball like I expect him to at Kansas State. I expect this kid to be upwards of a 28-minute guy at Kansas State and a starter on the basketball court. There's also been so many more moments of, okay, this kid's ready for D1 basketball. He's ready to be a star in college basketball. Insert the Adidas next-gen tourney where he won MVP of the tournament. In that 4-game stretch, he averaged 18.5 points, 2.5 rebounds, and 2 assists. Now, when you think about EuroLeague guys, everybody imagines Illinois. You think about Arizona. You think about some programs that have done some really good stuff. Kansas State's that next one up. I'm really, really excited about Matthew Guic, and I pray he ends up in Manhattan because I think he'd be a damn good player and a fan favorite immediately. Moving on to the second player on my big board, I'm sticking with the EuroLeague theme. I apologize, guys. I'll get to the portal here in a sec. We're going to talk about a second EuroLeague player. Let me pitch you this, and I hope I don't butcher the last name, so fair warning if I do, or if you're watching this and I butcher it, let me know, and I apologize. Elias Rap is a talented guard overplaying for Alba Berlin in Germany. A kid that kind of reminds me of Darian Williams from Texas Tech, a bigger-bodied guard that can go down and play kind of a point-forward role, but the kid's a better facilitator than Darian Williams is. Now, to jump in off the rip, 6'7", 220, he is a talented kid, can pass, can score, can shoot, and when you look up his stats, I know they can be deceiving. Not playing a ton of it. It's like 9 minutes a game, and then he's averaging like 3, 2, and 1. That's not crazy. When I say those stats, I know they're not crazy. 3, 2, 1, you'd think, all right, that's stupid, Joe, move on to about a different player. To put this in perspective, this is the second best pro league in the world behind the NBA. He's playing with former college basketball stars, conveniently one of his teammates on Alba Berlin, David McCormick for Kansas. We all remember that name. If you don't, take a walk down college basketball memory lane. Kind of a cool thing to see. You threw a lob from half court to him. It was a wild moment when you heard David McCormick on the big boards and the announcers. Kind of a crazy thing for me, at least being a K-State guy. Elias Rap, a talented dude. On Germany's B team, let me read you these stats. He's a triple-double machine. He's done it multiple times this season. Talking about this, in 29 minutes played, the kid's averaging 19.6 points per game, 6.8 rebounds, and 6 assists. So he's averaging 27 and 6. Just think about that alone, and I'll leave that out there. Like I said, reminds me a lot of Darian Williams. Has some Taylor Horton-Tucker to his game, but obviously a little bit taller in stature, but kind of that bigger, bulkier build where he can be kind of a point forward for you. I really like this kid's game. These two players would be awesome, incredible adds. He's got grown man experience against grown men over there playing professional. Him coming to college basketball would be a mismatch immediately. The third player on my list, I'm jumping into the transfer portal. Those are the last two EuroLeague guys I'll talk about. There's been some speculation about Andres Jelovic. I don't believe that one's going to come to fruition. I think he's going elsewhere, so I'm not going to mention him on this list. The third player I'll talk about, my number 3 player, is Jason Edwards, a talented scorer in the transfer portal, one of the best available scorers outright. A guy that's a 2-guard that's done just about everything for VCU. Played at North Texas prior to this, and even before then was at Garden City Community College. Shout out those Kansas State routes. He stands 6'1", 175 pounds, and I want to say this off the rip. I don't know the seriousness in terms of connection. There's been a couple of different Twitter accounts that have linked us and have called their shot and said yada yada yada, K-State will have some interest. There's nobody that's reported this, so don't take this one as a on the same playing field, but he's such a polarizing name that I felt it needed to be mentioned. Now, Jason Edwards this season, to put this in perspective, in 25 minutes per game, keep this in mind, the kid's averaging 17, 2, and 1.3. He's shooting 45.3% from the field, 35.3% from 3, and 83.1% from the free throw line. Break. If you're watching this video and you're not subscribed, 63% of the people watching this video right now are currently not subscribed to the YouTube channel, and feel free absolutely to ignore this and skip this, whatever the case is. But those of you that are watching right now and are unsubscribed, be sure and consider hitting that subscribe button if you love Kansas State, if you appreciate the channel. It's a great way to support me as I continue to grow on this journey, and it's also incredible to bring more K-State fans in like yourself on a consistent basis to see more of my K-State content. Once again, if you're in that 63% or if you're in the alternative in the 37%, I love and appreciate you. Back to the Cats. He's also got a low turnover rate of 1.6. The kid can do it all. He can score. My question would be, how do you piece him alongside Doug McDaniel? When you have two smaller guards in the backcourt, that could be a recipe for disaster. His defensive effort would need to improve, or whatever the case is. If you want Doug McDaniel to improve, whatever the case is, you're going to need some buy-in from both dudes, but he's such a talented scorer, you understand the upside and you take that. Number 4 is just barely behind number 3. There's not a wide gap between a lot of these guys in terms of like if you look at it and say my number 1 player, my number 7 player, there's a pretty big gap. But number 1 and number 2, number 3 and number 4, there's a lot of in-between individual gaps. And this is one of those. So 3 and 4 are close on my big board. Tayton Conway, a senior guard from Troy, a winner. I want to put that out there. An NCAA tournament player this past season. Led his team to the tournament. Stands 6'3", 186 pounds, and he was the Sun Belt Player of the Year at Troy. Now, he's got a Zoom call set up with the Cats. I don't know the exact date. I should have looked at that tweet before I did this. But the kid has had some interest in Kansas State, and I'm excited to see that opportunity come to fruition. Now, his stats. He's not a great shooter from 3. I'll get that off the rip. But I do think he's a talented dude, and he is an absolute hit bull defensively. Genuinely might be the best defensive player on this list, and that's crazy to say considering we have a dude that's a literal player of the year, a defensive player of the year on this list later to talk about. Now, keeping up with Tayton Conway. This past season, he averaged 14.2 points, 4.6 rebounds, and 4.8 assists per game. His shooting splits weren't incredible, but obviously 47.1 from the field's not bad. 27 from 3 is not great, and 65% from the free throw line, not great. He's a pit bull on defense. That is his bread and butter. But the kid has enough talent and enough ability to go out there and compete. He'd be a damn good at. His defensive prowess is up there. His ability to convert to high-level basketball is up there. He's ready for that. 1 year of eligibility remaining, so it'd be kind of a 1-year rental type situation, whereas some of these other dudes it would not be. That being said, Tayton Conway would be an awesome ad, and I hope that one comes to fruition. Number 5 and number 6 are kind of a coin flip for me, so flip a coin, choose whichever player you'd prefer. That's totally fine with me. I decided to put maybe one more. It's a little bit more controversial than the other, above the other one on the list, and I'll explain that without being stupid here in a sec. But the point of what I'm saying is I added a kid that may not crack a lot of your top 7 here. I think Abdi Basher from Monmouth is a talented basketball player. Now, here's the thing. Don't click off on this video just yet. He leads college basketball in three-point makes. Had 127 fall this season. That is the most in college basketball. His issue is this. He is absolutely razor thin. 160 pounds at 6'7". That could be a recipe for disaster in Big 12 basketball. Now, I know what you're thinking. All right, first game, he's going to get injured. He's going to blah, blah, blah. The kid held his own against talented competition. Against Rutgers, had 38 points. That is a ton. Looked good against Auburn, number 2 Auburn at the time. Looked good against Wichita State. Looked good against the other high major team they play. I forget who it is off the top of my head, but they played some talented teams, and he held his own. And he was a dude that Michigan State, that was it. Michigan State was sending doubles at in the first half because he was that elite at scoring. Now his numbers this season, 20.1 points per game, 2.6 rebounds per game, and 2.1 assists per contest. The dude is a talented player. Coming from Omaha, Nebraska, he's got the Midwest ties, like I said. This past season, his shooting splits were as follows. 37.7% from the floor, 38.3% from three, and 86.8% from the free throw line, so you know he's got that talented ability. He's got some big names on him. Kansas is interested. Kentucky had a Zoom call. I think Alabama was mentioned as well. There's some big names out there, but he's a talented dude and would be a good player to add because of the upside potentially on offense. You'd have to figure out the defensive side of things. You know he probably wouldn't be ready physically to go on that front, so you could hide him in some coverages. You'd also have to ask him to get stronger. 160 at 6'7" isn't going to play in the Big 12 night in and night out. You're going to need him at about at worst 180 maybe. 183, maybe a little bit bigger than that. We'll see. Time will tell what happens there. But I put him on the list for this reason alone. The reason I put him ahead of this next guy is his offensive production. He can win you a game by himself. That's the reality situation. The next player I'll talk about is one that is our first visitor. That is Marquel Sutton from Omaha. And I know what you're thinking. Joe, why is he number 6 on your list? This guy's really good. I'm not going to sit here and try to blow smoke and say he's a bad player. I'm not going to try to make you think that. I just think the players that are ahead of him are a little bit better in better situations. Now, Marquel Sutton, I do think is a talented guy. I had a whole video on him saying, okay, don't be stupid. Don't overthink the fact that, okay, he's not a great shooter from three. He's a damn good player in every other aspect. I still believe that. Whether he comes to Kansas State or not, I still believe he's a really, really good player and could be a great fit somewhere. The thing I thought about more on it sat with me, he feels more like a 10-5 guy than he does a 15-7 guy. And I know that's not the craziest jump in the world. He could be a very, very good impact player for your team. I don't see him as a top 2 player on your team, and I think that's probably the money he's going to command. That being said, fresh off a visit at Kansas State, he's a 6'8", 217-pound senior. He's from Omaha University, has some interest from both LSU and Nebraska. We'll talk about that here in a second. He was the Summit League Player of the Year last season for his conference. 18.9 points per game, 7.9 rebounds, and 1.2 assists per game. 47.9% shooting from the field, 27.7% from three, and 74% from the free throw line. He's fresh off a K-State visit, like I said. Didn't commit on the spot. It happens. I understand. It looks like he's got an official visit set up with either Nebraska or LSU, and the other one has a Zoom call. We'll see what happens there. Time will tell, but I do think he's a good player. Don't let him being number 6 shock you and say, like, okay, we don't want him. This is just my personal opinion. And number 7 is one that I've actually had to, kind of defend my take on. I won't go crazy for this, positive or negative. I think Amarian Dickerson for Robert Morris is here for a couple of different reasons. Number 7, once again, isn't a bad spot. There's so many dudes I could have put on this list that wouldn't crack my top 7, and that is okay. That's the reality situation. He's a 6'7", 185-pound junior. He played in the Horizon League and earned Defensive Player of the Year honors. You love that off the rip. I won't lie to you about that. He averaged 13.3 points, 5.9 rebounds, and 1.3 assists per game on 53.1% shooting from the field, 27.6% shooting from three, and 68.8% shooting from the free throw line. Another player similar to Marquel Sutton where he just can't shoot incredibly well. That's fine. I get it. He feels like a smaller version or a lesser version at the moment of Marquel Sutton. So I think the idea was, okay, Sutton is your first option. If not, Dickerson's a good secondary option. Now, there's allegedly a K-State visit set up in the near future. We'll see what happens. I'm pretty sure there's a dead period coming up, so if they get that in, great. If not, I don't know what to tell you there. But he gave Alabama buckets in the NCAA tournament, which has everybody talking about him and everybody noticing him. Now, in the NCAA tournament, like I said, for Robert Morris, a 15 seed, he led his team there. He started a ton of games this season, looked really, really good. He dropped 25 points, 9 rebounds, and 3 assists in the tournament, 2 blocks. Also locked down a couple of really good players. They had to check Grant Nelson, even though he wasn't 100%. In the last 5 minutes, they had to check him back in to try to get some more spark off the bench because Robert Morris was a real threat to upset Alabama. Obviously, Bama goes on to the Elite Eight, so on and so forth. They were a good team regardless, and Amarian Dickerson would be a great add for Kansas State. I will say this. I think his best case scenario is he adds a little bit of weight, so goes from 185 to 200 pounds. You just need to be a little bit bigger if you want to switch 1 through 4. He can switch 1 through 3, but Coach Tang does that regardless with his guards, so it's kind of one where it's like, all right, there's going to be a little bit more upside. You got to add some more weight. You got to improve somewhat from 3, even get to 30% so you're more of a threat so people will close out on you. And the thing that a lot of people have said that I personally can't shake, and that's totally fine, is some of the Achor comps. People looked at that and said Achor was really good. For Samford, he gave Kansas buckets in the NCAA tournament, had 23 against Kansas, whatever the case was, had a double-double, made Hunter Dickinson look bad. Achor didn't leave Kansas State because he was a bad basketball player. There's some stuff that happened off the court. It is what it is. He goes his own way. It does worry me a little bit in that sense where it's like, man, are we chalking up some of these guys that are really, really talented at smaller levels of basketball to be better than they are. That's the only comparison that sticks with me, and I'd be a little bit hesitant in that sense, but I am totally open to being wrong and totally open to adding Amarian Dickerson. But those are my 7 top players. I think that's the big board. Matthew Guic, Elias Rap, followed by Jason Edwards, Tayton Conway at number 4, Abdi Basher, Marquel Sutton, and Amarian Dickerson to round out the list. Those are my 7. I'm sticking to it. I will update you if I hear more on the recruiting process of any of these players, and if you add them, I promise I'll have a full video if I don't already, and I'm sure we'll talk about it a little bit more going forward. But that'll do it for today's video. Hope you enjoyed the big board, and shout out to my guy Barry for the idea. Also, last minute, because I'm completely forgetting now, the Avery Johnson lemonade, the strawberry lemonade, Wildcat NIL, it smacks. Go get you some. It's in Manhattan. It's at the Hy-Vee. Shout out to my guys at the Hy-Vee there for hooking me up with a set, excuse me. It's incredible. I love it. It's awesome. My folks love it. Gave it to my mom and stepdad. They love it as well. That'll do it for today's video. I'll talk to you soon. Go Cats.